The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Jackson Hayes entered, his prosthetic leg making a subtle hydraulic hiss with each step. Standing 6 feet tall with shoulders squared by military discipline rather than the genetic enhancements of the other ambassadors, he appeared almost comically frail among the assembled alien dignitaries. "This is Earth's champion." Ambassador Vrel's mandibles clicked in undisguised contempt. The Arthidian's exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber lights as he circled Jackson. The human can barely support his own inadequate musculature. "I propose we reject this mockery of the sacred trials." Admiral Patel, Earth's representative, stepped forward. Commander Hayes survived the Martian siege when his entire battalion was lost. He held the northwestern ridge alone for 3 days against overwhelming odds. His inclusion is legitimate under Article 7 of the Zarathi Accords. Jackson remained silent. The political theater unfolding around him was expected. Humans were the newest species in the Galactic Alliance, technologically outmatched and physically underwhelming compared to races that had evolved in harsher environments or engineered themselves toward perfection. But the Zarathi marriage trials were humanity's opportunity to gain true standing, if their champion could somehow win the hand of Empress Corellia, ruler of the most powerful empire in known space. "The human will fail in the first trial," rumbled General Drax, his scaled skin flushing crimson with amusement. "The strength trial alone requires lifting twice one's body weight for 30 minutes under triple standard gravity." "Commander Hayes has reviewed the requirements," Admiral Patel replied coolly. "Earth stands by our selection." "Then it is settled," announced High Minister Toll. "The human, Jackson Hayes of Earth, is officially registered as the 11th and final competitor in the trials." As the chamber emptied, Jackson found himself alone with Admiral Patel. "They're right about one thing," he said quietly. "I can't win the strength trial, not conventionally." "That's precisely why you were chosen, Hayes." Patel's eyes crinkled. "The trials aren't just about brute force. They're about finding a worthy consort for Empress Corellia. Someone who complements her power with wisdom and heart." Later that evening, Jackson stood on the observation deck of the Zarathi Royal Palace, gazing out at the ringed planet glowing violet in the night sky. The vast capital city sparkled below, a civilization technologically millennia beyond Earth's. "So you're the human competitor." Jackson turned to find a slender figure watching him. Though humanoid, her iridescent skin shifted subtly with her emotions, currently displaying curious patterns of gold and blue. Her eyes, 3 of them, blinked in vertical synchronization. "Just a soldier," Jackson replied with a respectful nod. "And you are?" "Curious," she said simply. "I've never spoken with a human before. Is it true your species still experiences grief? Fear? Longing?" Jackson's brow furrowed. "Of course. Don't all sentient beings?" A sad smile flickered across her face. "Most evolved beyond such inefficiencies. Or suppressed them through technology." "Then how do you know what matters?" Jackson asked. "Without feeling loss, how can you value what you have?" For a moment, something vulnerable flashed in her expression before she composed herself. "The trials begin tomorrow, human. I look forward to seeing what other, unusual perspectives you might offer." Only after she departed did a palace attendant approach in alarm. "Commander Hayes. Do you realize you were just speaking with Empress Corellia herself?" Jackson's eyes widened as he looked back at the empty doorway. The most powerful being in the galaxy had sought him out, and had seemed almost envious of his humanity. Tomorrow, he would need every ounce of that humanity to survive. The strength trial arena roared with the collective breath of 100,000 spectators from across the galaxy. Jackson stood among his 10 competitors, dwarfed by their imposing figures. The Corellian champion, Vox, flexed his 4 massive arms, each capable of crushing steel. The Thessalid representative, Marin, had evolved on a heavy-gravity world, her dense musculature evident even beneath ceremonial armor. "Begin." The announcement echoed across the stadium. Massive weight spheres descended from the ceiling, calibrated to twice each competitor's body mass. The artificial gravity generators hummed as they tripled the pull on everyone in the arena. Several competitors immediately hoisted their weights overhead, including Vox, who laughed as he juggled his between his multiple limbs. Jackson approached his sphere differently. While others had braced directly beneath their weights, he examined the gravitational field generators. His years in low-G combat had taught him that every field had fluctuations, weaknesses. As sweat poured down his face, Jackson positioned his weight sphere precisely at the intersection of competing gravity waves. He only needed to apply minimal pressure to keep it properly balanced. Where others fought gravity directly, he worked with its patterns. "The human employs trickery," shouted Drax from the judges' panel. "The human employs intelligence," countered Empress Corellia, making her first public statement of the trials. "The rules specify the weight must remain elevated, not how." When the 30 minutes elapsed, 3 competitors had collapsed. Jackson remained standing, his technique having preserved his strength while others had exhausted theirs. "First elimination complete," announced the Supreme Judge. 8 competitors advance. Later that evening, during the formal reception, Corellia approached Jackson as he stood alone on the balcony. "You surprised them today," she said, her skin shimmering with blues and violets. "But not you?" Jackson asked. "I'm beginning to understand that humans compensate for physical limitations in unexpected ways." Her third eye blinked independently, studying him. "Tomorrow's intelligence trial will better suit your species, perhaps." "We'll see," Jackson replied. "Though I suspect it's designed to test a very specific kind of intelligence." The next day proved him right. The intelligence trial consisted of a vast multidimensional puzzle chamber. Competitors had to navigate a labyrinth where the laws of physics themselves shifted unpredictably. Most approached it systematically, mapping pattern changes and calculating optimal paths. Jackson observed for 20 minutes while others plunged ahead. He noticed something they'd missed: the emotional resonance of the chamber itself. "It's responsive," he muttered, placing his hand against a wall. The material warmed slightly. Instead of fighting the chamber's shifts, Jackson began harmonizing with them. When a corridor contracted, he exhaled and moved with the compression. When gravity inverted, he surrendered to the fall rather than struggling against it. From her observation chamber, Corellia watched in fascination as Jackson completed the labyrinth first, not through superior calculation, but through intuitive connection with the environment itself. "The human displays remarkable adaptability," noted High Minister Toll. "He displays something far rarer," Corellia replied softly. "Acceptance of that which cannot be controlled." When 5 competitors emerged successfully, the day's trial concluded. That night, during a private moment in the palace gardens, Corellia found Jackson sitting beside a fountain of luminescent water. "2 trials completed," she said. "Half the competitors eliminated. Yet here you remain." "Disappointed?" Jackson asked with a small smile. "Intrigued," she corrected, her skin flickering with gold sparks that betrayed her interest. "Tomorrow's sacrifice trial has broken even the strongest warriors." Jackson studied her third eye, which couldn't maintain the emotional discipline of the other 2. "Why create trials that test opposing virtues? Strength, then intelligence, now sacrifice." "Because ruling requires all these qualities in balance," Corellia answered. For the first time, genuine emotion colored her voice. "A lesson I learned at great cost." As she turned to leave, Jackson noticed a pattern on her skin that hadn't appeared before, a deep indigo that spoke of buried sorrow. The third trial took place on a desolate moon. The 5 remaining competitors stood before a massive chasm, where 5 strangers of different species were suspended on slowly fraying ropes. "Each competitor must save 1 stranger," explained the judge. "The one you choose to save determines your reward, or penalty, in the final trials." Jackson examined the suspended figures. One was clearly a galactic dignitary, another a famous scientist. The third appeared to be a child, the fourth an elderly being, and the fifth a prisoner in restraints. The other competitors raced forward immediately. The Thessalid, Marin, claimed the dignitary, while Vox freed the scientist. 2 others chose the child and elder, leaving only the prisoner, the least valuable choice by any calculation. Jackson approached the edge and looked down at the prisoner, a gaunt figure with hollow eyes. "What was your crime?" Jackson asked as he began to pull the rope. "I opposed the wrong people," the prisoner wheezed. "I spoke against corruption in the Zarathi outer colonies." Jackson's hands worked faster. "You're a political prisoner." "The Empire has no political prisoners, officially," the figure replied bitterly. As Jackson helped the prisoner to safety, he noticed Empress Corellia watching from a distance, her expression unreadable but her skin pulsing with turbulent patterns of crimson and deep blue. Later, the results were announced. Those who had saved the dignitary and scientist received advantages in the next trial. The competitors who rescued the child and elder received neither advantage nor penalty. Commander Hayes, the judge addressed him formally. You rescued a condemned criminal. Your penalty is significant. You will begin the next trial 1 hour after the others. Whispers erupted among the spectators. Such a penalty made victory virtually impossible. That night, Jackson found Corellia waiting in the corridor outside his quarters. You knew who the prisoner was, she stated flatly. I didn't, Jackson replied. I just asked. The others calculated value. You saw a person. Her skin rippled with conflicting emotions. That prisoner was my half-brother, Taran. He led a rebellion on our colony worlds 3 years ago. Jackson's eyes widened in understanding. The trial was rigged. No matter who I chose. It tested whether you would see value beyond status or utility, she finished. Taran was imprisoned for questioning my policies after our world's civil war. Policies I myself have come to doubt. Why tell me this? Jackson asked. For the first time, true vulnerability showed in all 3 of her eyes. Because tomorrow's heart trial may be your last, human. And I find myself, hoping it is not. The heart trial began at dawn in the royal sanctum, a chamber of reflective crystal that mirrored not just images but emotions themselves. Jackson entered an hour after the others, his penalty from the previous day putting him at severe disadvantage. Inside, competitors faced manifestations of their deepest fears and regrets. Vox battled shadowy figures from his military past. Marin confronted the family she had abandoned in pursuit of glory. When Jackson entered his section of the sanctum, he found himself back on the northwestern ridge of Mars, surrounded by the fallen soldiers of his battalion. But unlike the others who fought their visions, Jackson knelt among his dead comrades. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, he whispered, tears streaming freely. I carry you with me every day. From her observation chamber, Corellia watched in astonishment. Where others resisted their pain, Jackson embraced his grief, allowing it to flow through him rather than fighting it. The sanctum responded to his acceptance, the visions dissolving not into victory but into peace. Jackson emerged from the trial chamber before any other competitor, despite his late start. That evening, a private dinner was arranged between the 3 finalists and the Empress. Vox boasted of his conquests across 17 star systems. Marin spoke eloquently of her diplomatic achievements. When Jackson's turn came, he simply asked Corellia about herself instead. What made you create these trials? He questioned. There must be easier ways to find a consort. The room fell silent at his directness. Corellia's skin flickered with surprise before she answered. My people nearly destroyed themselves in civil war. I needed someone who could understand both strength and restraint. Her third eye fixed on Jackson. Someone who knows that power without compassion is merely tyranny. Later, as gardens around the palace glowed with bioluminescent flowers, Jackson found Corellia standing alone by a memorial fountain. This honors those lost in our civil war, she explained as he approached. Including my parents and first consort. Jackson stood beside her, close enough that she could sense his warmth. Is that why you've isolated yourself emotionally? The royal physicians mentioned you use suppression technology. Ruling requires clarity, not emotional entanglement, she replied, though her skin betrayed her inner conflict with waves of deep purple. Where I come from, Jackson said gently, we believe understanding comes through feeling, not despite it. He reached out slowly, offering his hand palm up. After a moment's hesitation, Corellia placed her fingers against his. The contact sent visible ripples across her skin, colors blooming where they touched. Tomorrow is the final trial, she whispered. I should not want any particular outcome. Yet here we are, Jackson replied, his fingers gently intertwining with hers. For the first time in years, Corellia disabled her emotional suppressors, allowing herself to feel the full weight of her grief, and the unexpected lightness of hope. The final trial took place in the grand amphitheater before representatives of every world in the Alliance. Unlike previous challenges, this one was deceptively simple. Each finalist would present their case for why they should become the Empress's consort. Vox strode forward first, his presentation a masterwork of intimidation and promises of military glory. With me at your side, he concluded, the Zarathi Empire will extend to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. No enemy would dare oppose us. Marin followed with a sophisticated diplomatic proposal, outlining alliances and trade opportunities that would strengthen the empire without bloodshed. Her logical approach earned appreciative murmurs from the council members. When Jackson's turn came, he approached the center of the amphitheater empty-handed. No prepared speeches, no strategic proposals. "I was sent here to win an alliance for Earth," he began. "To prove humans deserving of respect in the galactic community. But standing here now, I realize something more important is at stake." He turned directly to Corellia, speaking as though they were alone. "Last night, you showed me what you've lost. The price you've paid for power. You don't need another ambitious politician or warrior. This galaxy has plenty of those." Gasps echoed through the chamber at his directness. "What you sacrificed wasn't just loved ones, but your connection to yourself." Jackson took a step closer to her throne. "I can't promise conquest or perfect diplomacy. But I can promise to remember who you are beneath the title. To remind you of the woman who created these trials not to find power, but to find understanding." Corellia's skin bloomed with colors no one present had ever seen on her before, warm ambers and soft rose hues that spoke of emotions long suppressed. "The trials were designed to test worthiness," Jackson continued. "But perhaps they've served another purpose, showing that true strength lies in connection, not isolation. In feeling our grief rather than suppressing it. In risking vulnerability rather than armoring ourselves against it." He extended his hand, palm up, just as he had in the garden. "I don't ask to rule beside you. I ask to walk beside you. To listen when others only speak. To remember what matters when duty makes it easy to forget." The amphitheater fell silent. Even Vox seemed transfixed by the raw honesty of the moment. Slowly, Empress Corellia rose from her throne. Protocol demanded she announce her choice formally, but instead, she descended the steps until she stood before Jackson. Her skin rippled with colors that told their own story: fear, hope, and something deeper that had no name in her language. "The Zarathi marriage trials have stood for 10,000 years, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the amphitheater. "In all that time, we sought consorts who would make us stronger through power or politics." She reached out, placing her hand in Jackson's offered palm. Where their skin touched, both glowed with shared warmth. "Today, we recognize a different kind of strength. One that comes not from conquering others, but from understanding ourselves." Their fingers intertwined as whispers erupted through the crowd. "Commander Jackson Hayes of Earth," Corellia's voice softened as her formal title fell away, leaving only truth between them. "You have shown me that an empire built on connection rather than conquest might be the strongest legacy I could leave. I choose you, not for what you offer my throne, but for what you offer my heart." As they stood together, Jackson's simple humanity shining beside her ethereal presence, something shifted in the galaxy's understanding. The ancient rivalry between species began to dissolve in the face of a more profound truth, that across the vastness of space, the capacity to feel, to grieve, to love remained the most powerful force of all. In a universe obsessed with conquest, understanding had proven the greatest victory.